We do have several shapers and routers. The routers are on wheels and they typically roll around the room wherever you need them. Just make sure you hook up to a dust collector. There's usually a few open dust collectors around. There are drawers filled with router bits. So we have a lot of router bits to choose from in these cabinets. We also have bits especially for the shaper in these kits in the side over here. If you want to install a shaper head, let one of the instructors know. We'll help you do that. Otherwise, if you're just installing a standard router bit, you can use a collet, an ER collet, in the shaper. It will run the same bits as the router. The only difference in the router and the shaper is that this runs at a slightly lower RPM. So this runs around 15,000 RPMs, whereas the shapers run at 10,000 RPMs. Some of our cutting bits do better at higher speeds, so you may use a router for those, but for the most case, the shaper is a more robust version of a router, so it's better in most ways. I'm going to do a bit change on the shaper. I'm going to take out this lock miter bit with a 1/2 inch shank and replace it with this 1/4 round bit that has a 1/4 inch shank using this ER style collet, which is the same one that's in here. Same style, just 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. First thing I need to do is unlock these fences. There's little knobs in the back, and pull them out of the way. You also, if you want, you might loosen these and back this up. It's not always in your way. I'm going to pull out these leveling rings now. The leveling rings do have 3 feet on them, so they can be made perfectly level with the surface here. Please don't adjust them yourself. Get someone else if it's unadjusted. The wood should slide across. It shouldn't catch on these discs at all. When you put these back in, there is a little indentation or a little tick mark on here that shows the proper orientation when you put them back. Now that I have the bit exposed, I'm going to open the side of the cabinet and I'm going to lock the spindle so that this no longer rotates. So now we're on the side of the machine. I'm just going to open the door. I'm going to pull on the silver handle, rotate it 90 degrees, and drop it into this next index position. You're not going to be twisting the handle itself. You've got to pull it all the way back and just drop it in the next index position. You're not going to be twisting the handle. You're going to pull it back and rotate it into these indents. So this is unlocked, that's locked. Now that I have that handle locked, I can rotate the nut and you'll see it locks in place. This is going to have a lot of force to pull this off. So I'm going to put my body against the machine so I'll move the machine around and pull it. You can see when I break the nut loose, sometimes the bit will still be stuck in place. What you can do is just keep spinning the nut until it breaks free, and then the bit should fall free and you can pull it out. In this case, I'm taking out the 1/2 inch collet. I'm going to put in a 1/4 inch collet. So I'm going to get this started. Once I have it generally in there, I'll put my bit in place. And I'll leave around a 1/2 inch or so from the bottom. I'm going to go to the other side of the machine and pull it nice and tight. And when you're doing it, you can stand in the front of the machine. I just don't want to stand in front of the camera most of the time. So now I've got this in place. I'm going to twist and make sure this can free spin. I would spin it at least 2 or 3 times to make sure this is completely loose. Once that has been loosened, go ahead and shut the door. And now I'm going to put the leveling ring back in and shut the fences here. Shut the fences up. Find my little indentation, a little indicator mark. Little indicator mark. So now the indicator marks are all in line. This should be nice and flush. I can bring the fence forward. And I can move these over until they're just clear of the part. I'm going to lock these down, the wings, and then I'll lock the actual fence itself down. You can actually install guards on here as well. It's good practice too. We're always going to use what's called the reverse on this machine. We're always going to run our parts from our right side across to our left side. We're never going to run them from the left side over to the right side. You're always going to be working right side across to the left when you're cutting parts on the shaper and on the router. Now that I have my bit roughly set up, I just eyeballed it so far. I'm going to go ahead and twist the E-stop and then use the green button to start it. You do need to use some type of push block when you're running on the router or the shaper. So I've got my part held down. I'm going to stand to the side just so you can see the cut. I could now inspect my part, and if I needed to, I could raise the bit, or I could adjust the fence forwards and backwards if I had any lines or anything on here I wanted to get rid of. If I were installing something like a rabbit bit, I can use the DRO here to zero it out. I can make a cut, see where it's at, find out how far it's off using a pair of digital calipers, and then I can loosen the nut in the middle. I can adjust it by the amount that I need, tighten this nut back down, and set my bit up that way. So it's much easier versus guess and check. You can just get it close, make a cut, measure with calipers, and then zero it out to see how much you need to go.